Putin arrived in China on an official visit, hoping to showcase the strong alliance between Moscow and Beijing. But it seems that instead of a breakthrough, he received some very strange signals, subtle Chinese trolling, and yet another diplomatic cold shower. Because while the Kremlin dreamed of negotiating a new mega gas project and demonstrating a strong friendship to the whole world, in Beijing, Swan Lake was suddenly played for Putin. Hello, you are on the Glavrid channel and I'm Marina Furman. And today we'll talk about Putin's strange and very telling visit to China. How was the Kremlin leader received in Beijing? Why did Xi Jinping essentially leave Putin without the main agreement? And how did the head of China subtly troll the bunker dweller with just one melody? We'll talk about all this in the following material. On Tuesday, May 19th, Putin arrived in Beijing for a two-day visit, and even the very first footage sparked a very mixed reaction, even in the Russian media. She did not go to the airport to meet Putin, although such gestures had been made before. Instead, there was the standard ceremony, a group of people with flags and children who started shouting welcome even before Putin had actually gotten off the plane. And even Russian propagandists admitted the reception looked very cold. To be honest, the whole atmosphere looked as if China was deliberately keeping its distance. Because while Russian propaganda shouts about a great alliance, Beijing is acting as pragmatically as possible, without much emotion and without the brotherly love that Russian TV channels love to portray. Putin himself, by the way, tried very hard to be as warm as possible. He even started the talks with a Chinese proverb. Just listen to this. Shol, Honorable Chairman Mr. Xi Jinping, dear friend. It would be appropriate to use a Chinese saying. As far as we know, in China they say, we haven't seen each other for a day, but it feels like 3 autumns have passed. We are truly very glad to see you. After this, the parties began negotiations. Officially, they talked about cooperation, the economy, space, energy, military contacts, and of course, countering the West. So, on paper, everything looks as large-scale as possible. But Putin is flying back to the Kremlin without the main agreement. We will talk about this later. And now about the most interesting moment, which happened during the official reception. During the dinner for the Russian delegation, the Chinese orchestra suddenly started playing, attention, Swan Lake. And that would be nothing special, except that in the post-Soviet space, this melody has long become a symbol of major political upheavals. This association became especially strong after the 1991 coup, when, against the backdrop of the collapse of the USSR, Swan Lake was constantly played on television. So the signal turned out to be as ambiguous as possible. Coincidence? Maybe. But after that, social networks literally exploded with jokes that China had subtly trolled Putin. And that's not all. People online also noticed Xi's gift, a painting in which the Chinese leader appears as the central and dominant figure, while Putin looks much more modest by comparison, literally half his size. By the way, the Russian delegation was treated to an extremely lavish meal, Peking duck, beef in bean sauce, noodles, Chinese wines, and desserts. But the main course of the evening, as we understand it, was actually Swan Lake. In addition, US President Donald Trump has already reacted to the meeting. He stated that he views the talks between Putin and Xi positively, but at the same time couldn't resist boasting. Announcer, I don't know if their ceremony was as brilliant as mine. I watched it. I think we outdid them. Good team. And now, the main point. Despite all the statements about a great partnership, Putin still hasn't gotten the most important thing. We're talking about the power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline. It is precisely for this project that the Kremlin has been trying to reach an agreement with China for years. For Moscow, this project is of strategic importance since Russia lost the huge European gas market after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But once again, there was no breakthrough. No concrete agreements, no launch dates. And after that, the Kremlin sent Peskov to the journalist, who was forced to explain why there was still no major deal. Vladimir Putin. In fact, as the president just said during the negotiations in general, the main parameters of understanding regarding power of Siberia 2 are in place. There is an understanding regarding the route and also about how it will be built. Some nuances still need to be agreed upon, but overall, such an understanding already exists. Journalist, any time frames yet for power of Siberia 2? Putin? Nothing definite. It's commercial info, but it's a major achievement. Incidentally, Gazprom's shares plummeted right after. The Russian company lost about 100 billion rubles in capitalization in just one day. Can you imagine? Against the backdrop of unsuccessful negotiations with China, the shares of other major Russian companies also declined. So the main outcome of this visit seems quite simple. Putin wanted to show the world a strong alliance between Russia and China and secure a major deal, but instead he received a cold reception, some very strange symbolic signals, and returned to the Kremlin with a painting in which he was depicted as half the size of Xi. What do you think? Was Swan Lake and the painting a subtle Chinese trolling or just a coincidence? Write your thoughts in the comments. That's all from me for now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next videos. See you next time.